101 Dalmatians. Pongo, Perdita, and their 15 puppies lived in a cozy little house in London. Their humans lived there too. Roger, who was tall and thin and played the piano, and Anita, who laughed a lot. They got along splendidly and were very happy. Then one day the doorbell rang, and in came Cruella, Deval, Anita's old friend from school. I'm so glad the pups have finally got in their spots, said Cruella. Cruella said, strong in their soft fur. I'll pay for them now. Pay for the puppies? Gasped Anita. Cruella, we couldn't part with them. Don't be silly, Anita, said Cruella. You can't possibly keep 15 puppies. We are not selling them, said Roger, and that's final. Furious, Cruella stamped out of the house. One frosty night, a few weeks later, Pongo and Perdita went out for a walk with Roger and Anita. The puppies were at home and asleep in their basket. Suddenly, two men burst into the house. They put on the puppies in their bag. In the big bag, then they carried the bag out to their truck and sped away. After being in the trunk for what seemed like hours, the 15 puppies found themselves in a room filled with many other puppies. They're Dalmatian puppies. On the couch in front of the television set were two nasty men who had kidnapped them. The other puppies told them that the men worked for Cruella de Vil, who had bought the puppies from the pet store. Back at home, Pongo and Perdita were horrified to find their puppies missing. It's that evil Cruella, Perdita said, sobbing. She has stolen our puppies. Oh, Pongo, do you think we'll ever find them? I have a plan, said Pongo. Let's try in the Twilight Bark. The Twilight Bark was a system of long and short bark used by dogs to pass along news. The next evening, Pongo and Perdita went on another walk with Roger and Anita. While the Dalmatians were out, they barked long and loud. They all wanted the dogs in London, and they wanted all the dogs in London to be on the lookout for their puppies. Pongo wanted someone to answer their barks. It was a very cold night, but most dogs were inside. Then Perdita ended her bark to Pongo's, and at last they heard a reply. Message received. Oh, sorry about your bark. We'll do all we can to help spread the word. Howled the Great Dane. That night, the Twilight Bark even reached a quiet farm where an old sheepdog known as the Colonel lay sleeping. Alert! Alert, the shouted Sergeant Tips, the cat who lived on the farm. Vital message coming in from London. The colonel lifted one shaggy ear to listen into the faint message. 50 puppies have been stolen, he cried. I heard it be sparking in the old divan. I'll mention, said Timms. You don't suppose. The colonel barked the message back to London. Then he told Timms, we should investigate right away. They headed straight to a gloomy Deval mansion. Timms held on tight to Colonel's back as he rushed through the snow. Once they arrived, Timms climbed down onto the Colonel's shoulders. He peeked through an open window. Good night, said the cat, when he saw the puppies. There were a whole lot, looking 15 puppies, stolen from London. I was stolen, cried Lucky, one of the puppies, and so were my brothers and sisters. The men heard a noise and went to investigate. Timms and the colonel ran away, but not before promising to get help. The next morning, Cruella de Vil arrived, aimed in her car. It's got to be done today, she cried. But you couldn't get a dozen coal. It's out of a whole cumberdo, protested one of the men, pointing into the puppies. Then I'll have to settle for half a dozen, said Cruella. Just do it. She dashed out and roared off in her car. Sergeant Timms and the colonel had returned, just in time to hear Cruella give the order. You kids had better get out of here before they make coats out of you, Timms whispered. Then he shot. One of the puppies tore the hole in the wall. Too small, protested the pup. Squeeze! Ordered Tim. And the pumping got through. One by one, the other puppies followed. Suddenly, the two thugs realized that the puppies were escaping. The chase was on. Timms and the pup scooted through dark halls and mansions of the mansion. Soon they found themselves trapped into the dead end. The thugs raised their clubs to strike. At that moment, Pongo and Perdita crashed through the window and a blast of flame into the freezing air. The angry Dalmatian parents fought off the astonishment as all the puppies scampered to safety. Once the dogs were safely outside, they thanked the colonel and Timms and said goodbye. Then they hurried toward London. Pongo and Perdita led the way. Their 15 puppies and all the other puppies right behind them. When they reached the frozen stream, they carefully crossed the slippery surface so they wouldn't leave paw prints. Then they resumed the race home. All along the route, the Dalmatians were helped by other dogs. A black Labrador and retrieve arranged for them and to ride to London in a moving van. The Dalmatians waited in the shed while the van was being fixed. Suddenly, Cruella's big car pulled up outside. Somehow she had followed their tracks. "Oh, Pongo," said Perdita. "How we get to the van?" Pongo noticed a lot of ashes in the fireplace. "If they're rolled in the sun, they would look just like black Labradors." When the van was ready, the dogs marched outside. One after another, the soot covered puppies were lifted into the van. And before Pongo had a chance to pick up the last one, a clump of snow fell from the shed onto the puppy. Pongo snatched the pup, and the snow had washed away the soot. From their car, Cruella could see white fur and black spots. "They're escaping!" she shouted, and as the van moved away, faster and faster went the van, but Cruella's car drew closer and closer. She was screaming in anger. Then she began to yell in fear. Her car skidding on an icy road. Cruella tried to stop it, and her car spun around and slid into a ditch. As the Dalmatians saw Cruella was standing beside her wrecked car and having a nasty temper tantrum. When the van reached the cozy little house in London, Roger and Anita were overjoyed. And when they counted into the dogs, they discovered they now had 101 Dalmatians. "We'll have to buy a big house in the country," said Roger. "We'll have a Dalmatian plantation." And they did exactly that. Pongo, Perdita, and all the spotted puppies lived there happily ever after. The end.